brutal and scary and unmanly about fans' hunger for their idols. We can, for the sake of politeness, agree to disagree and not to mock one another's musical tastes. But even those of us who are nominally grown-ups may find that we never quite outgrow the sense that there is something profoundly good about the music we like, something profoundly bad about the music we don't, and something profoundly wrong with everyone who doesn't agree. We take music personally, partly because we learn it by heart. Songs, more than movies or books, are designed to be experienced over and over, made to be memorized. We take it personally, too, because we often listen to it socially, with other people, or at least while thinking of other people. Especially in the late 20th century, American popular music grew increasingly tribal, with different styles linked to different ways of dressing, different ways of seeing the world. By the 1970s, different genres had come to stand for different cultures. By the 1990s, there were subgenres and sub-subgenres, all with their own assumptions and expectations. In some ways, this is a familiar story. Many people have a vague idea that in the old days, popular music was popular, and that somehow popular music got increasingly fragmented and obscure. We put on our headphones and escape from the world into our own curated soundtracks. But at the same time, many fans have kept faith with the idea that music brings people together, assembling audiences that cross boundaries. The truth, of course, is that both of these ideas are important and true. Popular songs or styles or performers can erase boundaries, but they can also erect new ones. The early hip-hop records, for instance, sparked a movement that drew fans from all over the planet. But that movement also helped sharpen a generational divide, giving young black listeners a way to renounce the R&B that their parents loved. And in the 1990s, country music became more suburban and more accessible, but it nevertheless remained a world apart from the pop mainstream. Country music gained new listeners, in fact, by portraying itself as a gentler, more tuneful alternative to the increasingly truculent sounds of 90s rock and hip-hop. Often, the economics of the music industry helped reinforce these divisions. Radio stations encouraged listeners to think of themselves as partisans, loyal to their favorite stations. Record stores arranged their wares by genre, hoping both to enable efficient shopping and to inspire serendipitous discoveries. And record companies scrambled to identify audiences and trends, searching for ways to make the listening public a little less unpredictable. It is easy enough to acknowledge the evident diversity of popular music. But diversity is a rather uninspiring term, conjuring up a polite and static world where people have the serenity to accept one another's differences. More often, popular music has been not merely diverse, but divisive, riven by crossover successes and cruel excommunications, rival fan bases and sneering feuds, full of musicians and listeners who keep finding new ways to set themselves apart. This is the divisive spirit I first heard in punk, and through punk I learned to hear it everywhere, even in my father's kora music, which he loved partly because it represented the world from which he had set himself apart. Unlike virtually all of his many siblings and half-siblings, my father left his country and his family in order to build a very different life in America, where he became a celebrated scholar of global Christianity and Islam. He didn't pretend to share my infatuation with popular music, but he couldn't have been too surprised by my interest in the stubborn and restless people who made it and loved it, and by the fractious musical communities they created. The Bose headphones that my dad wore in that hospital bed were brand new. A week earlier, I had given them to him for Christmas. A week later, we brought them home from the hospital, and they were mine again. I'm wearing them now as I write, listening to mixes of wordless house and techno tracks on the music-sharing platform SoundCloud. This is background music for me, and maybe comfort music. It's what I often turn to when it's time to read or write. But even a serene, gently propulsive DJ set is, in some sense, an argument. It rewrites the unsettled history of the disco movement. It elevates a handful of tracks over innumerable others. It endorses a particular view about how they ought to be combined. Electronic dance music is infamous for its proliferating categories, which can seem absurd to anyone not inclined to investigate the basic distinction between house music and techno, let alone the subtler distinctions that separate, say, progressive house from deep house.